Hey guys, very good morning. Today we are going to discuss Mark chapter 12, verse 13 to 17. Before starting our Bible study, as usually, we have to read these verses twice and thrice so that we can get a good knowledge on this concept, and we can understand that what are the common words in this and in these verses, and what are the main characters. So in this way we can understand the whole scenario. Now we are going to discuss some questions. We can prepare some questions here. We will see that. What was their motivation in asking Jesus these questions? What answers were they looking for, and how might they have used it against Jesus? The second question: we know that you are truthful and defer to no one, but teach the way of God in truth. Why did they say this? Why did they think it would be effective in buttering up Jesus to give an answer? And the third question we can prepare: what does it mean? Is it lawful? How did Jesus reply? What was a denarius? And what can we learn from Jesus' reply? Are there any principles here? If we can look at different chapters, like submit to human institutions, pay to all what is owed them, collect no more than you are authorized to do. So these are the statements we can see in different chapters regarding this passage. Now we are going to discuss verse by verse. Herodians. We know who the Pharisees were. They were the conservative party, highly respected but also highly legalistic. They greatly enjoyed their power and getting respect and recognition from people. The Herodians appear to be a Jewish political party who were favorable to the ruling Heroes. They would have supported the various Heroes who ruled and encouraged other Jews to do so as well. Perhaps they also viewed Jesus as a threat because of his popularity and the rumors going about that he wanted to be king. Remember that Herod the Great had all the male babies in Jerusalem killed years before in an attempt to prevent Jesus from taking his kingdom. The Herodians likely would have followed a similar policy by allying themselves against any possible rival to the throne. Flattery. Second one is flattery. The Herodians and the Pharisees came together to try to trap Jesus in a public statement. But notice that they didn't say, "We want to trick you." That would have kind of defeated their purpose. Instead, they approach him through flattery. It is not surprising that they thought this method would be effective. After all, they themselves were very vain, greatly delighting in the praise of people. It follows that they thought appealing to Jesus' vanity through flattery would also delight him, and that being so happy with their praise, he would let down his guard and answer their questions without thinking through the consequences clearly. On flattery, we can see Proverbs chapter 26 and Job chapter 32, Proverbs chapter 27 and 28. How can we resist flattery? We should care more about pleasing God than pleasing people. Also, the person who flatters generally wants something in return. We can pray for discernment instead of allowing our vanity and ego to take over. Also, we should guard ourselves from using flattery. It can be very good to truthfully compliment somebody, but when we do it because of a secret motivation or falsely compliment them, it became dishonest and deceitful. Is it lawful to pay a poll tax to Caesar or not? Obviously, they were not really seeking to learn. while they probably debated about this question extensively among themselves. They certainly were not interested in Jesus' opinion, since they considered him to be just a blasphemous carpenter. No, it's actually a very shrewd attempt to get Jesus to say something which they can use to condemn him later on. Many Jews would have been against paying this tax. Surprise! Besides the fact that people are normally against taxes, they had even more reasons. After all, Rome was a foreign occupying force. Rome was also evil and pagan, a nation who worshipped a plethora of false gods. If they could just get Jesus to publicly state his oppositions to paying taxes, they would have strong reasons to accuse him before the Romans. They could label Jesus as a revolutionary, a rebel who preached against the Romans. They could say he was stirring up trouble and leading the nation to cast off Roman authority. What's more, there would have been hundreds of witnesses who could have verified it. This is the height of hypocrisy. These leaders sought any chance to accuse Jesus. I expect that many or even most of them privately were against paying taxes to Rome and were desperately seeking a chance to throw off Roman rule. Yet publicly, they pretended to be pro-Roman and were about to accuse Jesus to death for the very things they themselves supported. You can just imagine them using every muscle in their body to try to keep calm and not reveal their plan to catch Jesus. Outwardly, they would have been sincere, eager to learn from the Master. Inwardly, their sneaky hearts were desperately hoping Jesus would slip up. Jesus answered. Jesus was not fooled. In fact, out of their many tests and tricks, he was never fooled. Helps to be omniscient, doesn't it? Jesus knew they were hypocrites and quickly squelched their hopes by asking why they were testing him. He then asked for a coin, and we know the rest of the story. So what do we learn from Jesus' reply? Jesus thought before he spoke. He first sought to understand the motivation behind their question. He also understood the consequences of his words. Once he spoke, he could not take back his words. A flippant answer could prove deadly. While our words are not always scrutinized as closely as Jesus were, we still need to be careful what we say. Once you say it, you cannot unsay it. Words can have a powerful and long-lasting impact. This means we have to be careful to think before we speak. Do not be in a hurry to tell others your opinion or to pronounce judgment on people. Take your time and make sure you give the right answer, not the quick answer. Jesus valued spiritual things above earthly things. Was Jesus pro-Roman or anti-Roman? Interestingly, you can read through all of the gospel and find that Jesus never talked about it one way or the other unless he was first asked a question. While many Jews were preoccupied with this debate, Jesus avoided it. Jesus knew that spiritual things were far more important than these earthly questions. If we can look at Colossians chapter 3 verse 2, sometimes Christians get preoccupied with questions like this as well. Who should we vote for? We debate current events. We get angry about policies that are made. There is nothing wrong per se about these things, yet our focus should not be on them. The fact is, neither Republicans or Democrats are going to solve the problem we face, or Congress or NDA are not going to solve the problem. We will be disappointed. Therefore, while we are in the world and need to be a good testimony to those in it, we should not get too attached to earthly things. God has established different authorities for different spheres. Family, church, country all have different leaders. While we should put services to God first over all of those. We should not shirk our duties in those areas in order to serve God. An example would be not neglecting our children in order to go preach. Another example is not saying our allegiance to God is higher than to our country, and therefore declaring we don't need to obey any of the laws in the country we live in. We should of course obey the government we live under unless it asks us to do something directly contrary to God's law. Being good citizen is right, and it will give us more opportunity to preach and share the word than if we are labeled to revolutionaries. Pay taxes. The leaders sought to get Jesus to make a public statement against paying taxes. He wouldn't do it. While he doesn't come right out and directly say, pay your taxes, the implication is that if it doesn't interfere with you serving God, then you should do it. Certainly, most people hate taxes. There are a lot of good reasons to be upset with how much taxes government collect and also how they use the money they collect. But it is not up to us to say, we don't like the government, the taxes are unfair, and therefore we are not going to pay it. In modern history, all the government collects lots of taxes, but we cannot serve both God and money. Do not lower yourself to do what many do by lying in order to evade taxes. Sometimes there are legal ways to minimize taxes, and there is nothing the matter with using those ways. But don't lie about it. They were amazed. Jesus answered, astonished them. It was insightful and powerful. It pointed out their flawed thinking and also avoided the trap they set up for him. So here we had a great discussion about these verses. We will meet in our next Bible study. God bless you.